So good evening, everybody, and you are welcome to another day of JavaScript. Before we begin, I would like to confirm that you can hear me and you can see my screen. So if you can hear me and you can see my screen, please drop a thumbs up in the class attendance topic. So just drop a thumbs up so I know you can hear me and you can see my screen. Okay, thank you. Okay, so going forward, I would like to know if there's anybody that has encountered any challenge or you have a question from the last class, anything, or maybe the videos on Google Classroom. If you have any questions, you can drop your questions on the question and answer topic so we can address it before we begin. If you have any questions, you drop your questions. Okay. No questions, no challenges. Okay. Yeah, if you have questions, feel free to drop your questions. And I also want to couldn't access the videos. Okay, now there's the video on Google Classroom. The videos, there are 3 videos there and 3 access to documents. Now, the first one will teach you everything you need to know on HTML as a beginner. The second one will teach you everything you need to know as for CSS as a beginner. And then there's a video on JavaScript. Now that JavaScript video will teach you everything you need to know as a beginner. And what I'm doing is still part of what you will see in the video on Google Classroom. So when we are done with every content in that video, I will upload another video to the Google Classroom. But currently, the video on Google Classroom is enough to cover everything we've been doing on JavaScript. My volume is low. Sorry, I will raise my voice. I think that will do. Let me know if the volume is okay. Okay, and also for those who are present, we can start dropping the thumbs up for today's attendance in the attendance class attendance topic. So I know you are present in today's class. I have 13 persons in attendance, so you can drop a thumbs up in the attendance class so I know you are present in today's class. So in the absence of any questions, we can just begin. So I'll create a new folder for today and I'll call it JavaScript 3. So drag it and drop on VS Code. Okay. Okay. So the first thing I want to do is create an index HTML file as usual. Bootstrap the file with exclamation mark. Maybe zoom in a little. Okay. And the next thing I want to do is create a JavaScript file for JavaScript and link the JavaScript in my HTML. Save it. Then I'll open up my HTML. Okay, do let me know if this font size is okay. I have increased it. Let me increase it more. Okay. Okay, do let me know if this font size is okay. I'll open up my HTML with my view. Yeah, let me use Microsoft Edge. Okay, so I have my HTML open up in the browser. I will click on inspect to open up console. And here is my console. I think I should also zoom in on this one. Okay, zoom in like this. And put it, should I put it on the left? Should I put it on the right? Nope, no, no, no. I wanted to put it on the left, that side here. Good. So I have this here. We've been talking about functions. Okay, we've done we did variables, the different types of variables. We also looked at arrays, string arrays, numbers arrays, mixed arrays. Although we're going to come back to arrays, we looked at objects. We're still going to come back to objects. But today, let's try and finish up with functions. And we are trying to demo a function or declare a function. Now, this is an example of a function. The function name is dd, and this function can do anything. It can do anything. It can calculate the sum and return the value. It can console log the value. It can run if or else statements. It can run conditionals. It can loop through anything you want. So a function is like a robot that will do anything you program it to do, and it will only run when you call the name. Now, if you don't call the name, it will not do anything. So in our last class, we've been using functions for calculations. Now, function is not only used for calculations. If you are a database or a backend developer for, I like using JAMB because it will be easy to relate to JAMB. If you are working in JAMB Office as a backend developer, it means that one of the functions you will write is a function that can accept the names of all the students and be able to pick out one student, or pick out all the students, or pick out students from a particular location, or pick out students from a particular JAMB center, or pick out students within the range of a certain score. Maybe those that scored from 49 and below, or maybe those that scored 50 and above. So you are going to be writing different functions. Let's just say you'll be declaring different functions that will do different things. If you are working for JAMB, you can if you have any idea, like if you understand what I'm saying, just drop on the question and answer section a type of function, a function. If you are working for JAMB, what kind of function do you think somebody working for JAMB would write, and what would the function do? So just drop it in the comments, because as a developer, as a backend developer, you'll be writing functions a lot. So it's very good you understand what functions can do. Even though I am using functions for calculations, that is not all what the function can do. From my explanation, a function is a robot that will do anything you want it to do, only when you call it. So if you are working for a JAMB office, just let me know what kind of function will you want to write. What would the function do? So I have a function here, and this function is just going to console log for me welcome, or maybe something like that. Welcome today. So this is what this function is going to do for me. Okay, I'm still waiting for your response. If you are going to write a function as a backend developer in a JAMB office, what would your function do? What would your function do? What would your function do? If you are to write a function as a backend developer working for JAMB, what would one function do? I'm still waiting for your answer. Just think of anything you'd want to do or that might be required of you. A function that can store data of students and take student data, look through student data. Yes, that's an example. Of course, you'll be writing a function that will accept student data. That one is important. You accept the data and you save the data on the database. So you can choose to divide them into two functions. One will accept the data, one will save the data, or you do them as one function, accept the data and save the data. A function to check if a set of students are already registered for JAMB. Exactly, that's very, very important. Before the registration, you need to write a function that will check whether this person is already registered on the backend. And we're going to do that a lot. We're going to do that because we'll be building registration functions, a function to show the total registered number of students. Exactly. Now, this one can also be divided. You may want to see the total number of students per state. You might want to see the total number of students for the whole nation. A function for authentication, very, very important. If you register for JAMB, you are supposed to be able to log into your dashboard. So you write a function to allow them login, a function to check cutoff mark, exactly. A function that checks the answer entered, exactly. It also check the answer entered and return the correct and failed ones, exactly. A function for attendance, exactly. The moment they clock in, a function should take note that this person has actually clocked into today's exam. Exactly. So these are the different type of functions you will write. We may not write all of them, but you have an idea what the function can do. Last time we were able to accept numbers. This time we may accept something like first name, and it will say welcome. But before I talk about this one, I want to teach you string concatenation. There's something called string concatenation. If I have two strings or more than two strings or one string, I can concatenate them. Concatenation means joining. So concatenation means joining. I can join strings together. I can join them together. So if I have one string or maybe two strings or more than one, I can join them together. Let's say I have this. This is going to be David, and this is going to be Samson. Now, it's not just strings. You can also join numbers together. You can join booleans together and all of that. Yeah, a function to check the duration of an exam. Exactly. So let's say I have these two functions. What I can do is say const message is equal to, I want to join these two strings together. So what I can do is say welcome, no, welcome, and here I will then put plus, and then this, no, possibly write a, and then plus, and put space, and maybe plus, and then put space, and then plus again. I'm trying to join the names together. So without adding these spaces, let me show you what it will look like without adding spaces. So I want to join A and B together. What I'm trying to type is welcome David Sampson. Welcome David Sampson. So here is David and here is Sampson. So if I console log this as message and save it, try refreshing this. So you see that I have welcome David Sampson, but no spaces in between. So what I can do is use double quotes to add spaces. Maybe before this one, I want to add a space and then add a plus. That before this one, I want to add a space like this. So that's why I added spaces here and spaces here. So if I save it and refresh, now I have welcome David. Now this is the ES5 way of concatenating strings. But we can do this another way with ES6. So I can say const message with double G this time is equal to backticks. And this is backticks, not quotes. This is backticks like this. it comes before number one. You'll see it before number one. So I have backticks and I say welcome, then put space, $sign, curly braces, and put A, and then $sign again, curly braces, and put B. And this is the way we do it in ES6. Where you use a variable, you add $sign and curly braces. Wherever you want to use a variable, $sign and curly braces, but everything will be wrapped inside backticks like that. So this is for ES6. If I save this and console log the double G, save and refresh, so I have the same thing. Now anyone you want to go with, they all work well. So but one is for EX5 and another one was given by ES6. So this is how you join strings together. And the reason why I'm teaching this is you can write a function that greets every day. So a function that accepts the person's name and greets the person. So instead of having this outside, we can have it inside a function. So here we can say take the first name and construct a message, and let the message say something like welcome first name. No, we'll add $sign and then curly braces first name like this. So anytime I call this function, I'll be passing in a name. Anytime I call the function, I'll be passing in a name. So here I will pass in Kelvin, and here I'll pass in maybe Joel. Anyhow, stay Joel and save it. So if I refresh this, I have I'm not console logging rather, so I think I can just console log it. Console log message and save. So I have this function accepting the user's name and constructing a message saying welcome with the user's name, and then console log the message like this. So if I refresh this and save, so I have welcome Kelvin and welcome David. So this is just a simple function that accepts number and okay, that's true, that's good. So this is just a function that accepts numbers or accepts the name and construct a message. Now here we are console logging the message directly. That's fine, that's okay. What we can do, there's something called the return keyword. Now to use the return keyword, we can create a function expression. A function expression is that this function is supposed to do something and return something at the end. So it will do something and it will return something. So what we can do is attach this function into a variable. We can attach it to a variable. Now if we attach it to a variable like this, it means that this function is now an expression. It's not a function expression. So it will do something and it will return a variable, and that will be stored inside this variable called MSG. So if you have a function that calculates 1 and 2 together, you can say after you calculate 1 and 2, return the answer for me. So it will return the answer and store it inside the variable. You can also calculate write a function. For example, here we have here we can have one of these functions. Okay, let's say a function here that accepts the student data, saves this data on the database. So what we can do is this function can accept the student data, save the data on the database, and return back the name of the user that has been saved. That way, the user will know that their name has been saved successfully on the database. So a function can do something for you and return the answer. So with this, we can add here and say return message like this. So it is going to accept a name here, construct a message, and then return the message. Now, this message that is being returned will be stored in this variable here. So this is what we call a function expression. A function. Now, even if you don't know what it means, knowing the name may not do you much, but apart from an interview, which I doubt, most times you don't have to bother about it, but you just need to know what it does and how to do it. So we have a function expression here. It will no longer console log the message inside the function, but rather it will console log the message outside of the function now. So it is going to construct a message for us and return the message that is constructed like this. So if I come here and refresh, I still have uncaught error DD is not defined. Okay, I am calling something else. So what I can do is, instead of calling the function directly, I can call this one here. Exactly. And save that and refresh. So I have welcome undefined because I did not add the name. I'm supposed to add a name, and let me just put something like fit. So, but we know that we can define a default name here for when there is no name passed in. You can define a default name here and save it. So if I refresh, it will say welcome hat. Now I can do this so many times and change the name if I want. And save it. So if I refresh, I have this. So this is example of a function that accepts a variable, does something with the variable, and returns a value. Now this return keyword is doing two things here. It's doing two things here. The first thing it's doing is that, let me see that I am recording. Yes, I am recording. Thank you for the reminder. So this return keyword is doing two things. The first thing here is it is going to return this value and save it here. That's the first thing. The second thing is, anywhere you see return, that means that is the last line. So if I come here and write something else, console log this. Now you see that this is a little bit fainted. If I hover over it, it will say unreachable code detected. Unreachable code detected, because the second thing this return is doing is that it is indicating the last line of the function. So the return keyword does two things. It returns this value, and then the second thing is it indicates that this is the last line. No other line will run. So this here becomes an unreachable code. The moment you add return, that is the last line. And you're going to do that a lot in your code. So, but that being said, do you have any question on what we have done so far? Do you have any question? Now, a function does not only accept strings, it can accept a score. And then inside the function, you write your if or else statement, checking if that score is greater than 20, if it is above 50. You just do your if or else statement inside the function and return whatever will be returned. You can do that in your function. Another thing is that your function can accept an array, names of students, and loop through the whole names and return the one you want it to return. Your function can always do that. And we're going to do that also. So that being said, the next thing I want to talk about is arrow functions. Now this type of function is a function from ES5, and it has its own limitations. Although you can use it, but it has limitations too. The first limitation is that, forget that I am calling these things here. I can still call them above the functions, which is actually wrong, which is supposed to be wrong. Uncaught error cannot access means, okay, because this is a function expression. Okay, yeah, I'm using a function expression rather. But this function, assuming this was just a function like this, I can call DD here. Let me remove these ones. like this, and this will still run. So if I refresh, it still says welcome Faith. Now this function here, what is going on here is that even before I declare the function, I can call the function, which is very, very wrong. You're supposed to declare the function before you call the function. And now this here is the what we call hoisting in JavaScript. Now I will explain hoisting later, but what's going on here is hoisting in JavaScript. So because of this functionality, where you can actually call this function before declaring it, JavaScript was upgraded in the EX5 from ES5 to ES6 to give us arrow functions. So arrow functions, let me just go back to how it was before. I think I'll be sharing the code, yes. So arrow function is declared the same way we declare variables. Const, I can call it anything, CCC as the name. Now this is how we declare variables. You just put the name of the variable, your name of function, like this. Declare a variable. But what makes it an arrow function is three things: the bracket, the fat arrow, and the curly braces. So these three things makes the variable an arrow function: the bracket, the fat arrow, and the curly braces. Now this is going to do the same thing here. Now this is the bracket which you have here. These curly braces is what you have here on this side, and then this fat arrow is replacing the keyword function. So you can just duplicate this thing by copying this from here, add it inside the bracket, copy all of this, and add it inside the curly braces. So it is still the same function. Now if I call this, here, this is the name of the function, so I'll call it here and save. It will still do the same thing. Now it's still refreshing and it's doing the same thing. I can do it again and possibly use David. So if I save it and refresh, it will still do the same thing. Now most of the times you will see me write arrow functions. So it doesn't mean that you can't write this function. You can write them, they're the same thing. The difference is this one, you can't call it because this is an arrow function, and you can't call an arrow function before declaring it. So an arrow function, you declare arrow function the same way you declare variables, the same way, but the difference is you'll be adding bracket, fat arrow, and the curly braces. So this is what makes it an arrow function. Okay, now Kenneth, this is your question. We are going to treat it now. Now, if you want to give, now what you mean is that you are supposed, instead of passing in one person's name here, you are going to pass in the name of all the students as an array. Then you look through the whole array, and for each name you greet them individually. The same thing you would do if you are supposed to add. I don't understand what you mean by running them out on an HTML page. Now this JavaScript here, the only reason why we are able to preview it on the browser is because this JavaScript is linked to our HTML here. So if it is not linked to HTML here, we can't preview it on the browser, because currently it is this HTML document that is opened on the browser here, HTML document. So that is the only reason why we can preview this JavaScript on the browser. Now, if you are asking whether, okay, I think that answered your question. All right. So back to where we were. Now let's say we have more than one student. We want to greet all of them. Are we going to be writing their names individually? No, we will not. What we would rather do is we've done loops. We've done higher array method. We've not done higher array method, which is where we want to go to. But say we have a name here of JSS1 students. And for JSS1, their names are all arrays. We have Hat here. We have Jesse here. We have Vic here. And possibly Dave here. So these are all the names of the people in an array. Now what we can do here is say loop through all these names with a for loop, and when to start at when I is equal to 0, so means start from the beginning. Now stop at when I is less than JSS1 dot length, the length of the array, and then increment the value of I like this. So what you want to do is that for each one, console log. Now instead of console logging, we use backticks and say welcome space, we pass in dollar, curly braces, and then JSS1, and then square brackets, the index of that person, like this. So here what we are doing is we are trying to pick out the names of everybody here one by one using the index of I, which will go from 0 till possibly 5 and 4 here. So what we are doing is we are picking out the one at index 0, the one at index 1, the one at index 2, and the one at index 3, and we are concatenating them together to form a message. Say welcome Hart, welcome Jesse, welcome Vic, welcome Dave. If we add them together, we console log them here. So if I save this and refresh, you see we have them here. Welcome Hart, welcome Jesse, welcome this, and welcome this. So but this, we can do this with a function. Now in a function, say the function will accept the name of any student. It will accept the name of anybody and then console log all the arrays. So for example, I can come here and declare a function and say greet everybody. That will be the name of my function, and it's going to be an arrow function, bracket, fat arrow, and curly braces. So inside here, I will say you're going to be accepting name of students as an array. So accept the array names of students. Then I'll put this whole for each thing inside here. So I can comment this out. So I will put this whole thing inside here. Now meaning that whenever I want to call this function, so what I can do is say call the function greet everybody, and I can pass in an array here, a direct array, GG, KK, JJ. So I have 3 arrays here. Let me refresh this, and okay, that's still showing. So I have 3 arrays here. I'm passing it directly. So if I save that, this function will accept arrays. So this array here is accepting an array, and then loop through the whole array. For each one, pick out everyone at the index, construct a message for each one, and then console log the message. So if I save this and refresh, and where am I getting at? I'm getting at. This is greet everybody, passing it here. I'm still getting this one console logged. Where am I getting it? I still have it greeting Jesse. Okay, what I can do again is copy this and pass in the array directly here and save. If I refresh this, I'm still getting the second one together with it. So but what I can do is comment this out. If I comment that out, it means that this will not work. So I'm going to comment this out. I want to see why. Okay, JSS1. Oh, I'm using JSS1 here. Okay, so it has to be JSS1. So what you can do is, instead of passing in the array, I wanted to show you two ways you can do it. Or you can, okay, I can actually use the length of this array that will be passed in here. So let me go back. I'll go back here and use the length of this array here. Yes. So if I save this and refresh, say JSS1 is not, I'm using JSS1 here again. So I'll remove that and save it here and refresh. So I have this welcome GG, welcome KK, and welcome JJ. So you can pass in the array directly here, or you can declare the array above and then pass in the name of the array like this and save it. So if I refresh, I will have the one for JJ and the other one like this. So this is how you can greet everybody. All right, thank you. I think I've seen that now. So this is how you can greet everybody. So you declare the array. Now declare a function that accepts the array, loop through the whole functions, and then greet everybody. Now this is one way of doing it. So when it comes to coding or coding JavaScript, I will always tell you there are three different ways of doing a particular thing. However you want to do it, there's three different ways of doing a particular thing. Now, if you have any question on this, just drop it for me and I will attend to that. But I can show you another way that we can achieve this. There's another way to achieve this, and that will bring us back to arrays. Const arrays. So I can call this whatever I'll call it students per se is equal to an array. But I'm not going to be talking about just arrays. I'm going to talk about arrays of objects. Now we talked about object the last time. So we have three objects or three empty objects inside an array. So array is a variable that can hold multiple values. So it doesn't have to be only strings. It doesn't have to be only numbers. It doesn't have to be only booleans. It can also hold objects, and it can also hold other arrays together. So you can have an array inside an array. You can have an object inside an array like this. So we want to talk about arrays and object together, where you have an array and you have an object inside it. Okay, so how do we do that, or how do we achieve that? Now, since we have this, what I'll do is I'll open it up. Now I'll open this up here. I have the first object, the second object, and the third object. So in the first object, I'll open it up and add first name as a student's name, and maybe add David, then separate it with comma, then add the last name, and maybe Samson, and then maybe add what other thing? Let me add the score like this. Now this is the first student object here. So I can do this again for the second student object. Inside here, I'll open it up and add it again. So I can change the name to maybe Lucy, and then change this to Frederick, and maybe the score I can change to 60. Then I will do this again for the third object. So here I can change it to Debbie, and then change it to John, and the score maybe 100 like this. So I have an array like this. Now we have entered the part. Can I see your question? Now, if you are getting more friendly with ES5, by all means, write EX5. Now, the only reason why we write ES6 is because we are writing EX5, and there are certain things we want to do, but we cannot do them with EX5. So that is why we brought in ES6. So if you are writing EX5 and you are comfortable with it, the whole of JavaScript is EX5. Everything is EX5. But there are just some part of it that are now ES6. So it is not the whole JavaScript that is ES6. Some part of it, there are some things we want to do and we want to do them well. And that is why we have ES6. So go ahead and write ES5. Now you can be writing ES5 and ES6 together in the same script, in the same file. It doesn't change anything. But you need to know when you are doing a particular thing, there are some things that if you do them with ES5, you may have limitations than when you do them with ES6. So that's all you need to have at the back of your mind. So looking at this like this, as a backend developer, most times, not most times, all of the times, your data will be coming in this format. This is the format of which you'll be getting your data. You will be the one to create your format. You'll be the one to create the format for the front-end developer. You'll be the one to decide how the data will appear. What we are writing is EX. EX is another name for JavaScript. So that's what we are writing, EX. So, but in JavaScript, there is the old way of doing it, which is EX5, and there is the new way of doing it, which is ES6. So that is what we are writing. JavaScript is what we call ES. So I want to explain what you are seeing here. What you are seeing here is a variable, but this variable is an array because it has square brackets. And inside the square bracket, you have the first object, you have the second object, and you have the third object before the closing square bracket. So this means that this is an array with 3 items here. The first item, the second item, and the third item. And each of these items is an object. And object comes with keys and values. Keys and values. How do one know EX5 and EX6? Now, all of JavaScript is EX5. But when I write ES6, I will be sure to tell you that this is ES6. For example, when I did this, I told you that this is how you do it in ES6. Now, this is how you do it in EX5. Now, when I introduce arrow functions, I told you that arrow functions come with ES6. So it is not as if all of JavaScript was rewritten. No, there are some part of it that were rewritten because of certain limitations. So it is not the whole JavaScript that was upgraded. We are writing the whole JavaScript, but some part of it we are upgraded, and that is what we call the ES6. So for now, I've just told you about this string concatenation with backticks and arrow functions. So these are the only 2 ES6 I have talked about. Every other thing we've been writing is the normal JavaScript, including these arrays of objects, like that. So like I said, as a backend developer, this is the format with which you'll be getting data. And you are responsible for determining how to build your data. Now, the first time a project is start to beginning, they will invite you as a backend developer, and you will start explaining to them how you will build the data. Now, it's going to be an interview for you as a backend developer, how you want the data to appear and why you want them to appear like that. And most times, you will be building your data with arrays of objects. But in some cases, you can build them with arrays of arrays, or objects of arrays. Now it's your choice how you choose to build your data, and I will teach you how to build that data when that time comes. Now, the front-end developer is going to be writing JavaScript to be able to get the data that the user is filling. Now, it is that data they are filling. The front-end developer will use JavaScript to accept the data, arrange the data, and send the data to you via a request as a back-end developer. So the front-end developer will be writing JavaScript to send the request. JavaScript is the only programming language for the web. But if the person is building a mobile app, now it's not compulsory that the person will use a JavaScript. But what programming language they choose to use will not affect how you work on your backend. You still accept the data the same way. But if the person is working on the web, it's JavaScript. If they are working on a mobile app, it can be any other programming language. It can be Java, it can be Flutter, it can be Kotlin, it can be Swift. It can also be JavaScript, React Native. So, but for you, all you are doing is you are accepting the data, you're building the data, and you are doing whatever logic you want to do with the data like that. So let's work with this. I have this array here. This is at index 1. This is at index 2. Now, to be able to show that, I can console log the whole array. Students, save that. If I refresh, I have 3 here. Now, this is telling me that I have 3 items inside an array. And these curly braces mean that they are all objects. So if I open this up, I will see that the first object is at index 0. The second object is at index 1. The third object is at index 2. So what I can do is, I don't want to print out the whole object. I can choose to print out just one object. So what I can do is come here and pass in the index of the first object and save it. So if I refresh now, I have only the first object, and I know it's the first object because if I open it, I am seeing David Sampson, and David Sampson is what I'm seeing here. So if I decide to change it to index 2 and save it, I should be printing another object here like this. So, but what you can also do is, after getting the object, you can decide to go one step forward and get only one key. So to get a key, you add dot and then pick maybe the first name, the last name, or the score. So I can choose to go with the first name and save it. So if I refresh this, I have Debbie here. So if looking at this, I want you to tell me what I will be printing here. What do you think it will be printing out in the console looking at this? Console.log, students index 1, last name. What do you think it will be printing? Somebody say Lucy. Okay. What do you think it will be printing? It will be printing Frederick, Samson, Frederick, Samson. Now we are looking at index 1 here. So this object is at index 0. This object is at index 1. And this object is at index 2. So if I save this and refresh, I have it printing out Frederick like this. So this is what it will do. Now, this is exactly what you need to understand as a backend developer. But the reason why I am doing this is this. You can decide to build a maybe a software like maybe a blog, or maybe an e-commerce website, or any of those websites, and they will be feeding from your back end. You can have multiple softwares, a website, a mobile app, and a dashboard feeding all from the same back end. Now, this is how you are able to pick out data from any object. Here you can have multiple items. You can also have another thing here, say location, like this, and it's an object. So you are having an array with an object, but inside the object you have another object. So you can also have another object here where you say the city is maybe Port Harcourt, and then the state, not capital letter, the state is Rivers, like this. So there are different ways that you can build your data, but like I said, the decision is up to you as the backend developer. You will decide how the data will appear. The front-end guy will just work with what you decide, like this. You can also come in here and add another object again. So you have an object inside an object inside an object, or maybe instead of adding an object, you can go ahead and add an array here, like this. So you have an array, object, object, then arrays again. But we're going to come to all of that later. Now, what I want to talk about here is higher array methods. Higher array methods. Now, higher array methods are very, very important. Very, very. The most important three higher array methods are map, filter, and for each. These are the most important. There's no software you will build without using one of these. So it is important you understand how to use this. Now, what do these do? These are called higher array methods. Although they are loops, they are the same thing as these for loops. They're the same thing. But the difference is this for loop doesn't come with a function. But these ones, they all come with an inbuilt function. So we call it a callback function. A callback function is a function that is inside another function. That is what we call a callback function. So a callback function is a function that is inside another function. So what is a map? A mapping, or let's say map method or map function, will loop through the whole array and return a new set of arrays. For example, say you work in a JAMB office and you have this data on your database, an array of objects where each object is a student, each object is a particular student, and maybe the admin asks you to print out only the first names of everybody. Print out only the first name. I want to see all their first names of the names, first names of everybody that wrote JAMB. So what you can do is use the map function to return a new set of array, and that array will contain only first names. So that is what mapping will do. For example, I can come here and call that, I can say, what is the name of the array again? Students. So I can call students dot map, like this. So student dot map. Now, because I am mapping, before I do map, let me not use map. Let me use for each to explain first. For each. I want to use for each. Now, for each is this. Let's say every student here, they failed. They didn't get up to the cutoff mark. The admin can decide to tell you, please add 10 marks to everybody. Add 10 marks to everybody. Now, you will be using for each. What for each will do is that it will do something for each of these. It will do something for each of these. So that is the name for each. It will do something for this one. It will do something for this one. It will do something for this one. And what you are doing is you are adding 1 for each of them, or to each of them. So what I can do is call for each instead here. So if I call for each, I have called the method, but the method is not complete because I said these are higher array methods because they come with callback function. And a callback function is a function inside another function. So it means that inside here, you can write a function like this. So this is a function, and you can open it up and do whatever you want to do. Or if you are like me, you can choose to write an arrow function, the bracket, the fat arrow, and the curly braces like this. So this is what we call a callback function, a function that is inside another function. So what I can do is open it up like this. So I have an arrow function and I want to do something. I want to add 10 marks to everybody. So what I can do is say, here I will call each object a student. Whatever you want to call it here, just call it whatever here. So whatever you write here, this name here represents what you are calling each one. It represents what you are calling each one. Now, because you want to do something for each of them, you put a name here so that you call each one by that name. So if you put whatever here, it means you are calling this whatever, you are calling this whatever, and you are calling this whatever. If you also add something like student here, it means you are calling each object a student, each object a student. If you come here and you put pupil, you are calling each object a pupil, like that. So this is how we call it. So sometimes I use the word each to know that I am referring to each of the objects, each of the objects. So you can call it a student, and also you can use data. Sometimes I use data and sometimes I use each. So what I want to do is I'll take each one. What I want to do is console log, or maybe say each one dot the score, add +1 plus equal 10. So I am taking the score for each of the objects and I'm adding 10 to it. When I add the 10, I will then console log it. CLG. Like this. So what I'm doing is I am taking each score from each object and then I add 10 to it and then console log it like this. So if I save this and refresh, you see that the first person's score is now 80, the second person's score is now 70, and the third person's score is now 100. So this is called higher array methods. Now it is called higher array method because it's very powerful. Even if it's 1 million students, it will do this in seconds. It's a matter of seconds. Even if it's 100 million students, it will do this in a matter of seconds. So it's going to add 10 marks to everybody in a matter of seconds, like that. Now this is for each. The next one is going to be the mapping. Let's talk about the mapping. So I can come here and say students.map. And like I said, this is a higher array method because it comes with an inbuilt function or a callback function. So I will open it up and say, take each one, but I want to return for each one their first names only. So like I said, mapping will return a new set of arrays. So if you are asked to print out only the first name of everybody, this is how you will do it. You say return for each one their first name, like that. So what you can do is then store this inside a variable called first names, or whatever you want to call the variable, like this. So down here I can console log first names. So if I save this, this is going to pick out the first name from each of the objects and return it. Then save it inside first names, and I'll be console logging first names. So if I refresh, I'll see that here I have a new array from this array, and it contains only their first names. Now you can do this for their last name. You can do this for their only their scores. If you want to see only their scores, you can do this exactly like this. So do we have any questions so far, or should I continue? If I should continue, drop a thumbs up in the questions and answer topic so that I will continue. But if you have a question, still drop your questions. Okay, thank you. Yeah. So the last one, or maybe not the last one, the third one here is like the very sweet one, which is very, very sweet. You get to return a particular student based on a condition. You return a student based on a condition. For example, they can tell you return the student details where their first name is David. So the person whose first name is David, return the whole details about that person. Or return all the students that are from a particular state, River State. So let's go ahead and add state here. Exactly, you can. If you want to, you can. So you can make this bigger to return an object, or maybe not just an object. You can, and how do I make that easy? But I don't want to confuse you now. But yes, you can return more than one if you want to, and also you can concatenate these two to return using string literals, where you can where I put this, I can put this and then put this here, and then in addition to this, add space here, and then do each the last name if you want. So you can use string literals to do it. You can use an object to do it. You can. There are so many ways if you want to do it. So this is now going to return a string with just two variables. So if I refresh, and I am not console logging again, sorry, console log first names like this and save it. So if I refresh, I have their first name and last name, first name and last name, like that. Now you can still go ahead and tag underscore, but most times why not just return the whole object? If you want to return 3, the items are just 3, so you can return the whole object. But you can return more than one if you want. It's your choice. There are all different ways to do it. So I'll leave this like this and remove this. I was going to add location here. Location. And this location will be Rivers. I'll add it here again for this person. Rivers, and then here I'll add again, but I'll change this to maybe Lagos and save it. So for the filter returns a particular student details based on a condition. The condition can be return the one from River State, or return the people that scored above 60, or return the people that scored below 60, or return the person whose first name is David. Now it can be any condition. So that is what filter will do. How you write filter, you say students, which is the array, dot filter. You pass in your function here, which is the callback function. Now inside the callback function, first off, you call each one. Inside the callback function, you can say return where each dot, let's say location, is equal to Rivers. Now this condition here is that you will return all the student objects that are from Rivers. And looking at it, we have only 2 students from Rivers. So if we console log it, we should see 2 objects. So what I'll do is store this inside a variable and say maybe Rivers students is equal to this, and then console log Rivers student. So, and save this. So if I refresh this, I'll see an array with just 2 objects. Now I can still change the condition and say let the condition be Lagos. So you are returning the students where their location is equal to Lagos. So if I refresh this, I have an object with just, I have an array with just 1 object. And if you open it, you see that the location here is Lagos. Now this is just for 1. You can do something like, for those that are score are greater or equal to 60, the condition can be for those, maybe it's 60, 70. So there, the condition is to return the students that their score are greater or equal to 70. And if you look at it, we have 70 and 60 and 100. So it means that it will return the first and the third object. So if you refresh this, actually it's returning 3. And why is it returning 3? Because I'm console-logging Rivers student. Yes, this is greater than or equal to 70, right? And I have 70, 60. So I want to see why. So I still have it returning, is it not score? Okay. Return each your score is greater than or equal to 70. Let me see why I have this. I can change this. Okay, now this is returning for those who are less than 70. Now, I don't know why it's not returning for those who are greater than 70. Let me remove 1. So return only those that are score is greater than 70. And if I refresh, it's only 2. Check this. This is 80. Okay, I know why. We are adding 10 marks here. So at the time we add 10 marks here, this person's score is now 70, no longer 60. So that is why when you say return greater than or equal to 70, it means that this person's score is now 70, because here we are adding 10 marks to everybody. So what I can do is say return those who are above 80, because I know his score will not be 80. So if I return this, I have 80 and I should have 110. So because I'm not commenting this out, it's actually adding 10 marks to everybody. And then here it is returning those who are above 80. So this is the higher array methods. I don't know if you have any question. Yeah, thank you so much. I added 10 marks to everybody. So higher array method. Now the next thing we can talk about, we've talked about having if or else statements. Now you can do if or else statement inside. You can do if or else statement inside the function. So the function will accept the student's score, check what the score is, and then maybe return either return either passed or failed, anyone. So that way you can do that too. What other thing can you do with higher array methods? What other thing can you do with higher array method? Now you can do a lot. There are so many things you can do, but for now, this is where I think I want to end this part of the JavaScript. But if you have any question, please let me know. If you have any question on higher array methods, please let me know. You can map, you can filter, and you can do for each of them. And another thing is this, you can tack on two together. So meaning that you can fetch the one that a score is greater than this and tack on map to it. When you tack on map and you say map through, but return only the first name, each dot first name, first name. So this means that here you are first filtering those that are score above 80. When you filter them, return only their first names. Only their first names. So you can tack on the third one also, which is for each. You can tack on 2 together, 3 together if you want. So if I refresh this and save, I say for each is not defined because I didn't call each here. Sorry. They are supposed to call each here. So save it and refresh. Now you see it is returning to David and Debbie. Now if you look at it, David's score will be greater than 70 by the time you add 10. Debbie's score will be greater than, is it 70 or 80? Okay, it's actually 80. So this will be greater than 80 and this will be greater than 80, but it is returning only their first names. It's returning only their first name. So you can do this by tacking on 2. And like I said, we are using just 3 data or 3 students here. Most times you are going to have more than 3. You can have up to 300, 400, 1 million students, and it will do exactly the same thing because they have powerful higher array methods. They can do this in seconds. And also here we are seeing the data. You will not see the data. You may not even see the data except you console log the data. Now you can console log the data and you do. Now we'll get to that part later. But for now, this is what we are working with, and this is the format which you can see. So is there anybody with a question? So explain the map again. Can you delete, and how can we be given a certificate after completing this program? Of course, you'll be given a certificate, but for only those who will complete the program, because we're going to be doing different projects, different assignments, and you'll be graded. So when you are done on completing it, you'll be given a certificate. And then can you delete, and how can you delete? Now this data currently is being handwritten here. So we are writing it here. Assuming this data is coming from a database, then we can delete. So I'm going to show you how to delete from this data. To delete a particular student, I'll show you how to delete this. And I will also show you how to add a new student to when we come to that part. So the next question is, can you explain mapping again? Now, mapping, what I'll do is I'll do another mapping here. Now, mapping returns a new set of array from an existing array. So here we have an existing array. You can be asked to return only the first names of all the students. So that means you are returning a new array from this array. Now this array contains their first name, last name, score, and location. But the new one that will be returned will contain only their first name, or only their last name, or only their locations, or only their score, depending on what the instruction is. So that is what mapping will do. Now, how do you write mapping? You call the name of the array dot map. Now, dot map is a method, and it comes with it comes with a callback function. You can use this function if you want. the normal ES5 function. You can use this function if you want. And then here you write return. So, but inside you should be calling each one a name. So I do call them each, return each dot first name or maybe last name. So here you are returning only the first names. Now this is going to return it as an array, so you need to store it inside a variable. So that is why we are creating a variable to store the values that will be returned here. So if I decide to console log it, RR, and save this. So save and refresh, I have it returning only their first names, only their first name. So here you see that I have 3 items in an array. If I go ahead and add a new object here to make it 4, I can add a new object and say this is what do I call this person? Maybe Beauty and Baptist, and then let's just keep it to Lagos, and here I can add let's say 50 and save this. So if I refresh this, you see it will just console log the 4th one immediately. So these functions, if you write them and deploy them, it doesn't matter whether a new student is added to the array or to the database, it will do the same thing for everybody automatically like that. So I don't know if you have any other question. Now this here is the callback function. This here is bracket, arrow, and bracket. No, it's wrong. Now the callback function is an arrow function, is bracket, fat arrow, and curly braces. That is an arrow function. The bracket, fat arrow, and curly braces. So the second one here is the correct format. This one is wrong. What is the difference between filter and mapping? So I said before, mapping will return a new set of array. A new set of array. Just a new set of array. Now, why filter will return a particular student, or let's say it will return each of these objects or all of these objects based on a condition. There must be a condition here. Now, if you look at mapping, it doesn't have a condition. It just returns each student the first name. But here we're working on the score. We're not returning the score. We are returning based on a condition. And the condition is that it must be greater or equal to 8. You can set anything as your condition. Your condition can be for those who are above or below, or those who are writing from a particular jam center, or maybe a particular registration number. Anything can be your condition. So any object or any student that fits in that condition will be returned. That is what filter does. But for mapping, it will return all of them in a new array. That is the difference between filter and mapping. So I don't know if you have any more questions. I would like to attend to them now. So if you look at this here, these are higher array methods, and they are more powerful than for loops and while loops, like that. So you can choose to skip the for loop and start using for each if you want to do for loop, or use a mapping if you want to do them like that. So any question? Okay, there's a video on the Google Classroom. That video will teach you everything about the basics of JavaScript. The basics of JavaScript. But going forward, I'll be doing videos, and I'll be dropping the videos for you to see. Just short videos, maybe for each class or maybe for each section, just like that. But I already have a video on Google Classroom, and it will cover everything you need to know on the basics of JavaScript. I don't think, okay, I think so. So, but from next week, I'll do videos and I'll drop video links for you. You can't find the video on Google Classroom. So if I open my browser here and I go to Classroom, and this one. So I am currently in the classroom. Now this is the backend classroom. If you open it up and scroll down, the first things we have here, this is HTML, this is CSS, and this is JavaScript. So if you click on it to open it, you will see the first videos, and they are short.
Yo guys, what's going on?
Videos.
You're watching JavaScript.
Exactly. So you see short videos on this, and this first one is the intro. By the time this one is done, it will go to the next one. It will go to the next one. So this is number one. You see the second one. You see the third one, and so on and so forth, like that. But if you still don't understand it, it's fine. We have JavaScript tutorial here, which is the documentation. And this is going to teach you the basics. Now, looking at here, you can do whatever you want. And I can go to functions. Where do I have functions? So here I have arrow functions. You can click on arrow functions, and then you see an arrow function, or maybe before arrow function, the type of function being used here. So if the video is not working for you, you can choose to go with documentation, read the documentation, and so on and so forth, like this. So I think with that, you should be able to find the video here. You should be able to see your video here. And these also are for HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So do we have any more questions? Class videos. So like I said, from next week, I'll be dropping short video links for you for our classes going forward. So don't bother about how to get them. I'll drop the links for you. If I don't drop it, the community manager will drop it herself. You see them, and then you can actually go through. I'll be dropping them before the class. So possibly somewhere around midweek, you'll see the videos, and then whatever you see in the videos, if you have questions, you can bring them to class with live session, and I will attend to your questions in the live session. Now this, I don't know if I should drop this code also on GitHub so that you can have access to them, if that helps you. I don't know if the code, because most people don't they find it difficult to read codes that are written by other persons. So, but I don't know if I should drop this code for you on GitHub. Okay, yes, okay. I think I should do that. I'll drop that on GitHub. And I think that will be all. So let me drop this on GitHub. But what will happen is, if I drop it on GitHub before the next class, I will usually delete it, because most times people check out my GitHub repo and they will want to see JavaScript day 4. They want to see what I've done in JavaScript, so I don't want them to do just the basics. You have a question? You have a question? Commit changes and then share the links here. So I'll drop the link for you here. Yes. So do we have any more questions? Or should I ask my own questions? So what I will do is this. I'm going to write a filter statement here. So I'll say students dot filter, or you know what, let me not use filter. I will use this. I'll declare const b is equal to possibly 5. I have b already, so let me declare c. C is equal to 5, and then I'll say if if c is triple equal to 5, console log first, else console log second. What do you think would be the output on the console? Second, what do you think will be the output of this in the console? So the condition is if C is equal to 5, console log first, else console log second. And the value of C here is 5. Now somebody say first, somebody say second. So any other person with a different answer? Any other answer? Okay, so I'll save this. Yeah, I'll save this and refresh. So when I refresh, I have it printing out second. So somebody will wonder, why is it printing out second when the value of C is actually 5? So like I said before, what I can do here is say 5. Now this 5 is different from this 5, and I will explain that. So Control Z. Now I have 5, a number 5. If I save this and refresh, it's still first. If I use double equals and save this, it's still first. Now if I do this and change the data type, and like I told you before, whenever you put quotes, it doesn't matter whether it was a number or a boolean. The moment it is having a quote, is now a string. So looking at this data type, this is number and this is strings, but I am using double equals. So if I save it and refresh, it will still print out first, but by the time I choose triple equals and save it, if I refresh, it will return false. So the reason why it is returning false is because double equal looks at only the value, meaning that the value here is 5 and the value here is 5. So it is not checking any other thing again. But by the time I use triple equals, it checks the value and also checks the data type. So the value is 5, but the data types are not the same. That is why it is falling out of the first loop and going to the second one. So, but if I use double equal will only check the value, and the value are the same. This is 5 and this is 5. That is the value. But by the time I add triple equals, it will check the value and the data type. So if I refresh, it's the second. The value are the same, but the data types are not the same. So that is the reason why it is falling out. So any other question? So next thing I can do is possibly try true and true. What do you think will be the output and console log? What do you think will be the output and the console log? Drop it in the questions and topic answer. What do you think will be the output? It is checking, is the value true? Second. So if I refresh this, I'll save first and refresh. Now it is printing down second, exactly, because this is triple equals. It is not looking at only the value, but also looking at the data type. They are the same value. This is true, but they are not of the same data type. Now, this question will always come out in exams. Maybe not my exams, but maybe an interview for a job or anywhere. This question will always come out like that. So, do we have any other questions? No questions. Now, please remember to take your attendance. If you have dropped your thumbs up, don't bother dropping again. If you've dropped the thumbs up in the class attendance, don't bother dropping again. But if you have not, please go ahead and drop your attendance before we close the attendance for today. And we'll be calling it a day here. So do you have any questions? Any more questions? No questions. So any suggestions? Am I too fast with the class? Is there something that I can do better? You have the floor now. You can speak. Am I too fast? Is there something I should change so that you understand it better? How does the map function works? Now, I think you will not really understand how it works unless you are given a task, maybe a job task or maybe an assignment, and you understand how the map function works. But what you need to know is that the map function is going to return a new set of array from an existing array. So if you have something already and you are asked to return not all of what you have, but some part of it, not all of it, just some part of it. So that is how the map function works. Yes, I was going to drop the list of those who have submitted their assignments. I'll drop that before, maybe today, tomorrow. I'll also drop that, and I'll also drop your assignment. So expect a new assignment. I'll be posting that on the Google Classroom too. I'll drop that on the Google Classroom. So in the absence of any questions, you can drop a thumbs up, not in the class attendance now. No, that one is for attendance only. A thumbs up in the question and answer group so that I know that we can end the class here now. So you can drop a thumbs up. Thank you. So we can end the class here. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you. I think I have shared. Have I? Yes, I think I have shared the repo link to this file. Yes, I have. So see you guys again on Saturday, but expect an assignment. I'll be dropping an assignment, and also the current JavaScript assignment. I'll be extending the deadline to this week Friday. So the other assignment also expect to this week Friday. So you should be checking out the Google Classroom to see when I've dropped the assignment. See you again on Saturday this week. Bye. Good night and have a good night rest.